Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, the full game, on both single player and multiplayer on the GTX 1050 Ti. To skip to any of the resolutions tested, check the timestamps down in the description. So on this card, in order to try and get 60 frames per second, unfortunately for 1080p and 900p it was pretty difficult. You can easily drop below 60 pretty often, especially on 1080p obviously, with that on both the campaign and the multiplayer ground war mode, but in this case I recommend an overclock on the GPU in order to get more performance out of 1080p if that's the resolution you are looking for. If you go for 900p though, you can crank up a couple extra settings and get slightly better performance than on 1080p. And finally for 720p it was much easier to get to 60. You can even enable the SMAA T2X option to avoid the grainy effects. So yeah, my recommendation here is that you go for either 900p or 720p, aiming for 60 frames. If you don't care that much about the performance, just go for 1080p high settings, you get around 30 frames per second. But on a first person shooter, I like to prioritize the performance over the visuals. It doesn't look bad on low settings though. So in the options menu there are a few things I recommend tweaking. Basically, to get a huge boost in performance, lower particle quality from high to low. After that, the anti-aliasing options, despite being SMAA in most cases, they make one of the biggest differences in performance. One very important thing to know about anti-aliasing is that if you don't use T2X SMAA or filmic SMAA T2X, the motion blur, the reflections, the depth of field will look significantly worse. It'll just look like some grainy effect on screen. That's why in the options menu there are multiple instances where the game warns you about that. If you can, use T2X SMAA or the filmic option, but again it will affect performance over using SMAA 1X. And then also the ambient occlusion option helped out on the performance side. You can select to have ambient occlusion independently on static objects or dynamic objects, or have it on both at the same time. Of course, if you disable it, you have a good improvement in performance. And finally, I recommend lowering shadows and reflections together. By themselves, usually going from the highest to high helps a little bit, but then below high there wasn't a huge difference for what I could see. So lowering that along with screen space reflections together should have a good improvement in performance. But as always, if you can lower all that I mentioned together, that's the best chance to get the best improvement overall. But don't give any attention to the VRAM gauge, it's not accurate at all. If you have a 4 gig card, use normal textures. If you have more than 4 gigs, use high, and if you have less than 4 gigs, use low or very low if you have a 2 gig card. Other than that, the game will use significantly more RAM, and it might crash. That happened to me a couple of times. And also talking about the VRAM, there are 2 cache shadows options. If you have an NVIDIA card, I recommend you enable them. It should give you a couple extra frames, but use a little more memory. But on the AMD cards, I recommend you disable this option. On the RX 570, as an example, I ran into multiple crashes using those cache shadows options, so again disable them on AMD cards, enable it on the NVIDIA cards. Other than that, the game should run fine. For the video I tested 2 parts, trying to aim for 60 frames per second when possible. So yeah, I'll first show you the campaign. That's one of the worst performance I saw so far on the GPU side. And then I'll show you the ground war mode, which is the 64 player multiplayer mode. That one gave me the biggest hit on the CPU and GPU of all the multiplayer modes. If I play in the classic Call of Duty, I think it's 6 versus 6 or 8 versus 8 option of team deathmatch. That should run better than ground war. Again, less players, smaller maps, that all makes a difference. That's why I'm showing you the worst case scenario I could find on the multiplayer side. On single player, I noticed that most drops happen when there are a lot of effects on screen, such as fire, explosions, smoke, volumetric lighting, all that kind of stuff. Other than that, it should be okay. Then on the system RAM side of things, the game used a little over 8 GB, so my recommendation, if possible, is to have more than 8 gigs of RAM. If you cannot manage that, the game might stutter quite a bit, or maybe crash, I'm not entirely sure, but dual channel is very important. On the CPU side though, a quad-core CPU was enough to get to 60 frames per second. Despite the CPU going to 100% and very often, the game still ran pretty good. If you have a 6-core i5 or Ryzen 5, then the frame time should be a little better, but overall it doesn't seem to require a lot of CPU to get constant 60s, even on the ground war mode. But anyway guys, that's about it. I hope you keep enjoying the video, thanks for watching and see you next time.
We need to keep this on a tight loop. Markov's men are moving the gas tonight.
What are the odds we run into General Barkov? Heads up.
Down. We're clear.
Copy. Post up on the ridge and let's see the lay of the land.
Echo 3-1 to Blue Viking 5. Call for fire. Stand by for target confirmation.
Copy 3-1. Viking standing by.
Medium transport truck.
Transport for the gas.
One in the tower. Left side high, not army. Movement in the rail yard.
That's how the gas comes in. Vehicles on the move.
Patrol vehicle. Contractors.
Security. Good targets. No Russian military presence. Call it in, CIA.
Blue Viking 5, this is Echo 3-1. Troops in the open, south gate. You are cleared hot.
Roger 3-1. Target acquired. Weapons free in 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Echo 3-1. Good effect on target. Viking is RTB. Good hunting.
Much obliged, Viking. We'll take it from here.
Heads up. Multiple guns on foot.
Clear. Force up. CIA has a zero-tolerance policy for these assholes. Looks like someone was playing with fire.
Serves them right, hawking this chemical shit.
Burner! Пожалуйста, помогите!
Put them out of their misery.
We control Delta! Capturing Charlie! Losing B! Enemies in the area! In the air. Recon out! We control E. Enemy threat, move ahead.
Echo 3-1, Viking 1-1 on approach.
Taking E.
What's the position?
Rossi system deployed.
Taking A. We're taking Charlie. Control Alpha. Enemy personal radar in the air. Back up at Echo. Control Charlie. Check your fire. Back up at
Check
Echo.
your fire!
Assist your team at Alpha.
set point. Roger, on the move.
We need to keep this on a tight loop. Barkov's men are moving the gas tonight.
What are the odds we run into General Barkov? Russian general would be caught dead. Psst, heads up.
Down.
We're clear. Copy. Post up on the ridge and let's get the lay of the land.
Echo 3-1 to Blue Viking 5. Call for fire. Stand by for target confirmation.
Copy 3-1. Viking is standing by.
Medium transport truck.
Transport for the gas.
One in the tower. Left side high, not army. Movement in the rail yard.
That's how the gas comes in. Vehicles on the move.
Patrol vehicle. Contractors.
Security. Good targets. No Russian military presence. Call it in, CIA.
Blue Viking 5, this is Echo 3-1. Troops in the open, south gate. You are cleared hot.
Roger 3-1. Target acquired. Weapons free in 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Echo 3-1. Good effect on target. Viking is RTB. Good hunting.
Much obliged, Viking. We'll take it from here.
Heads up. Multiple guns on foot.
Clear. Force up. Damn, CIA bringing the heat today. Looks like someone was playing with fire.
Serves him right, hawking this chemical shit.
Securing Alpha. Enemies in the area. Friendly UAV overhead. Friendly IAV dropping in. Friendly emergency airdrop incoming. Be advised, friendly precision airstrike inbound. Friendly UAV overhead. Captured Alpha. Friendly IAV dropping in. ESB drone away.
Full station, 011, right shoulder in the house. Roger 3. Got movement on the first station. Right, coming from the other side. Lovely station, no shot. Got movement short,
Be advised, friendly precision airstrike inbound. Friendly UAV overhead. Stand by. Enemy personal radar in the air. We've got Delta.
Check, consider on overwatch. Full station, 011, right shoulder in the house.